Hey everyone, it's Naomi and welcome to the Firecracker Department Aftershow. This is when we come together as core members of the Firecracker Department, sometimes community members, and we talk about the past podcasts and what just kind of made us laugh or what made us go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. Or what woke us up the next morning and made us still think about it. All those things we're going to talk about here with these beautiful people. We've got AJ Edmonds, who's in Toronto, sometimes Los Angeles, a talented singer, writer, creator, actor, funny person, dog trainer, and also the head of our one of the producers of the Aftershow, but also the head of our brand development and also our legal department of Firecracker Department. We have a legal department. That's how cool we are. Then we've got Emily Churchill, who's in Los Angeles, super funny person. She has a series called Friends on a Bench. She's got a short film called Stark Raving Actress, which is super, super funny. And she's also the head of the wellness department and co-produces the After Show with AJ. And then we've got Fran Caviello, who is in Toronto. And oh my gosh, Fran's got stuff going on. She's not only finishing her work over at the Daniel College in Toronto, third year finishing that school, but she's also creating so much for the Firecracker Department because she's one of our very first Firecracker interns. So welcome everybody. I can't wait to get started. This is a great conversation I had with Ariane Thielenhaus. Now we have so many different firecrackers in our discussions, and Ariane was one of the first person that was more focused on into the activism world. She is the director of programs and partnerships for Women's Voices Now, which is this great organization that supports young women coming together, and they teach them how to make documentaries about things that are important to them. Can you imagine if that was around when I was like a child? I would just eat that kind of stuff up. I so enjoyed my chat with Ariane. She's also produced some films, but her focus is definitely overseeing the organization of these programs for the Women's Voices Now organization. What did you think? I'm such a fan of Ariane. What did you think, AJ?
I love hearing from people that live slightly outside of our world and outside of entertainment, and they're looking at entertainment as an avenue for growth and sort of human connection, but also, looking at the future generation of storytellers and how we start fostering them. And one of the things I think about a lot when it comes to social activism is how privileged some of us are to be able to sit back and have conversations about it. And, because in a lot of cases, we aren't the ones that need the access to what is being created. We are in the privileged positions of talking about it and creating an atmosphere of activism around it for those that don't have the time.
Yeah.
And, hearing the things that she's working on and all of the elements that go into really like bringing people together. It was so neat to sort of get her perspective on, how entertainment is really affecting this group. One thing I loved that she said, though, was, people will only do what they want to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people will show up at the boardroom table, but only half of them will follow through with what they're excited about.
And that is so true.
Yeah.
Across the board, like for everybody. Emily, you're nodding your head. I agree with that so much.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Telling people what to do doesn't work. And I think what she said this in the episode, she was like, when people ask for my advice, I say, I'll give this to you, but, most likely they won't do it. And they don't. So usually people, no matter what they're wanting to talk about or whatnot, you'll give them advice, but it's up to them to figure it out because maybe they have to make that other decision. So they do learn, so they're going on their journey and they're learning. They need to go through that experience for a reason. So, I just, when you said that, I was like, yep, I wrote that down.
Yeah,
for sure.
AJ, I feel like I might've cut you off in mid thought, but were you finished your thought?
No, I mean, I never finish my thoughts. So you just let me go. So if you don't cut me off, it's just never, it'll be this train that moves forward. So
the Zoom thing makes me feel like I'm cutting people off all the time, but I want you to not feel that way. Good. Okay, good. Fran, what did you say? So mute, AJ. Fran, what did you think?
I really liked the episode. I think something that really stuck with me was that when she was talking about homelessness, about how it's tough for an individual to change that situation, because I think a lot of people feel like it's easy, just like, oh, just apply yourself, go get a job. Like it's so much deeper than that. It's so like systemic because like the stigma around people who are homeless. It's not that simple. And I think like her also saying like you can't force people to want to make certain changes. It's just like it just goes together with trying to show people that it's just not once, it's like more gray, it's not black or white.
Yeah, I think like her level, Ariana's level of compassion and empathy is just so, it's such a beautiful reminder. Like I think, I'm looking at this Zoom and I see 3 very compassionate and empathetic faces, but the reminder of like, let's always think past what we see, because you just don't know. Yeah. I just love that something like Women's Voices now exists in the world. And I'm so thrilled that we've connected with them and are finding ways to support what their work is. What else did hit your heart, Emily?
I loved how, kind of piggybacking off what Fran just said, you have to define yourself first before you define other people. And that is huge. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to look at themselves. They just want to push stuff out on other people when you're like, honey, you need to just look in the mirror, maybe. It's okay. Take a deep breath, because I think that's really important for moving forward as a global community, which we're doing. So yeah.
But I think such vulnerability, doesn't it? AJ, what were you gonna say?
I don't think any of us were taught how to do that though.
True.
Right. I think about, when we have these conversations of self-care and we have these conversations of vulnerability, I always feel really privileged to even be in a position to sit back and go, no, I'm going to take 20 minutes for yoga today because I have no dependence.
Oh, yeah.
I have, I don't have to rush off to 4 jobs to keep my life going, and like there was nothing in my infrastructure as a child because I grew up in a predominantly white community that was relatively affluent in a town that was known to be affluent. And so my access to diversity purely came from my parents' work, which was very international. But overall, like I think the conversations we're having right now are becoming more normalized because we're realizing the importance of it. But it's going to take us a long time to get there because the individuals that really, really need this type of care aren't in positions in their life to be able to access it or welcome it or even make it a reality because we will never understand what their life is like. So what Ariane is doing and the work of the organization is trying to normalize this and create a sense of anyone can have access to this, but we have to create that environment.
Yeah, I love that. It's also education though. Like when somebody's like, oh, self-care or like just be yourself. I'm like that's such a grand, like what does that mean to just, and sometimes it takes people a lifetime to actually know what their voice is and who they are. Like I don't know, I mean just this organization itself. Can you imagine the power of these filmmakers that are coming out of Women's Voices now? What else?
I think it's inspiring that the more we keep seeing of younger filmmakers, the more it makes me, I don't know about anybody else, but it makes my heart just swell with such optimism because I'm seeing things that I didn't get to see when I was younger, and to think that they're making them is just amazing. And I'm so excited for what the future holds because it looks very bright from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Fran?
Well, I have it highlighted here that she said filmmaking is her voice. I think that's so important because she can put so much out there because we all consume media, we all consume films. So if we see it and it's whatever she's talking about is normalized, and like what she said is thinking or seeing beyond yourself, there's like a real chance at some positive change.
Oh
Can
my
you
God.
imagine being 15 and being shown a movie made by another 15-year-old? Not a movie written.
But it's also little ladies and non-binary and people that are like not necessarily giving those opportunities. Like we're finding a balance now. So there is change afoot. Yeah. I remember when somebody my father gave me a camera and was like, you can go and take photos now. And I was like, what? That's powerful. I could create just by pushing a finger, super blurry. I mean, I fingers in front of the lens, but you know what? They were art. That's art
right.
to me.
That's
What?
right.
Any final thoughts about Ariana and my conversations?
The thing that I wrote down was disengage to engage. And I think that once again, I think this goes with AJ saying like, well, how do you do that? Or I've never been taught that. I don't think we've been taught that at all. I don't think our society has taught us that, to see each other, to define ourselves before we do, and to look and to disengage before we engage. And I feel like it's coming to a part where it's really important that we try. Because I think even just trying or just having that consciously in front of our face is going to open the avenues to get there, right? So I think it's inspiring to know, yeah, I can disengage and be okay. The world, everything's not going to stop if I stop for a second. Because
Says
that's
us
not how we
on
were raised.
Zoom. Meanwhile, we're like, come and watch the after show. Yes, but yes.
Disengage after.
After this.
Yes, after.
This. What other final thoughts do you have to share?
I could have listened to her talk forever.
I
You
know.
know, when was the last time you did nothing?
Oh,
Come on.
What?
Like, I mean, when I was 10,
I
And-
know.
I think it was called sleep.
Yeah, but that's not doing nothing. You know? Like that's recharge.
It's something. Yeah.
No, I know. It is a beautiful, it's in nature. When I find myself seized by nature and I can just stop, that's when I'm like, okay, this is a good moment. And then I'm like, I gotta take a picture of this.
Yeah.
Look,
Share
I'm
it with Emily,
disengaged.
AJ, and Fran. Any final thoughts from you, Fran?
Yeah, I just wrote down, and I really liked this when she said to raise and elevate stories from everywhere in the world, because that has the potential to connect with an audience on an empathy to action level. I just really liked that, and I thought that was very important.
Thank you for highlighting that. That was really good. I know. I just feel like at the end of this chat, I was like, oh, I'm just full of hope. Right?
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking of hope, I hope you're doing well with your other things that you're doing outside of Firecracker Department. Tell me what you're working on so we can support it. Ems, what's going on with you?
Well, I want to give a shout out. We're doing a live after show for the 100th episode of the podcast, and that's, I think, the week after this one is airing, which is on March 4th. So make sure to tune in, because that's what we're working. That's what I'm working on.
We love the live version of this. Is super fun, and we take like questions and comments as we go from on the Facebook Live and on Zoom. So it's super. It's one of my favorite things to do. What about you, AJ? What do you got going on?
Just, you know, another Groundhog Day in COVID. So a lot of the same stuff. I try and spice it up by taking my dog for walks in places we haven't been yet. New graveyards, you know.
Oh, okay.
Because why not?
I love it. If people want to follow your work with graveyards, they can go to your Instagram account.
Meet me on, well, Walter has his own Instagram now because the pandemic has pushed that out. Walter Foxman's, if you're bored. No, I'm also writing a lot. I'm really fortunate to be in an industry that has been working through the last 6 months. So I am lucky to be on a lot of sets and just plugging forward.
Keep writing, AJ. You have such talent as a writer. Just write on. Fran, what about you?
I'm enjoying my time as a firecracker intern, just basking in all of the people and the events and trying to stay active in this community. And like AJ said, since it's like Groundhog Day every day, that's kind of all that I have to do, and it's very fun. So
Yay, we're lucky to have you, Fran. Unfortunately, we are not going to let you go. So you'll be known as the oldest intern. You'll be like 75. You're like, I'm still an intern at Firecracker.
There's no shame. I mean, Robert De Niro was the intern, wasn't he?
And that movie was a huge success.
That movie. Well, listen, we'll do it again. We'll do our own. We'll meet you here in 60 years, everybody.
I love it. Well, for all Firecracker Department stuff, go to firecrackerdepartment.com. Let us know what you thought about this chat, and then go over to the podcast. Here's some of the other voices going on, and give us a tweet or an Insta at Firecracker DEPT. And don't forget, this is a little FYI on the DL, but it's going to be public. So who's kidding who? But our next newsletter comes out March 3rd, and it's going to be featuring a very brand new blog by Fran Caviello. So I cannot wait to see how that's going to put out into the world. So thank you so much. Thanks, AJ, Fran. Emily, love speaking to you, love seeing you in any which way. And this has been the Firecracker Department After Show. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.